He thought it was just a simple act of kindness, helping an elderly man carry his groceries. But by nightfall, the poor student's life would change so dramatically, even his neighbors wouldn't believe what they were seeing. Armin had always been the kind of student who kept his head down, not because he was shy, but because life had taught him to survive quietly. With his father gone and his mother working endless hours as a seamstress, he knew every rupee mattered. That morning, as he hurried to his university with an empty stomach, he spotted an elderly man sitting by the roadside. The old man's clothes were torn, and his trembling hands clutched an empty water bottle. Armin stopped for a moment, his mind torn between the urgency of getting to class and the sight of this man who looked like he hadn't eaten in days. The old man's eyes met his, and in them, Armin saw a silent plea. Without thinking twice, he took out the only money he had for lunch, enough for one decent meal, and placed it gently in the man's hands. The man's lips trembled into a grateful smile, and he whispered, "May your kindness return to you 100-fold." Armin smiled faintly and walked on, not realizing that his small act of compassion had already set something far greater into motion. Hours later, as he sat in class with his stomach growling, a call from the administration summoned him to the dean's office. The reason shocked him. His part-time job at the library was terminated. They said he had been distracted and unfocused lately. His heart sank. That job was his only source of income, and without it, he didn't know how he would even pay for his next meal. Walking back home in the evening, the city lights blurred in his tear-filled eyes. He thought he had lost everything that mattered, unaware that the real story of his life had just begun. The next morning, the entire neighborhood was buzzing with curiosity. A deep, rumbling sound echoed down the quiet street, growing louder and louder until it stopped right outside Ali's small, worn-down house. Blinking in disbelief, he peeked through the curtain, and nearly dropped to the floor. Parked in front of his gate were not one, but 10 gleaming Rolls Royces, their polished bodies reflecting the sunlight like mirrors. Neighbors gathered, whispering and pointing, as the drivers, dressed in sharp black suits, stood by the cars, waiting. Ali's heart pounded as one of them approached and handed him a sealed envelope. With trembling hands he opened it, revealing a handwritten letter. It was from the elderly man he had helped the night before. The man revealed that he was not an ordinary beggar, but the retired owner of one of the largest automobile empires in the country. He had disguised himself to find someone who still believed in kindness without expecting anything in return. "You are that person," the letter read. "These cars are just the beginning. You've earned my respect and my friendship." Ali's eyes blurred with tears. Just yesterday, he was a poor student with barely enough to eat. Now strangers were calling his name, cameras flashing, and his life had shifted overnight. But more than the wealth, it was the knowledge that his small act of compassion had sparked such a miracle that left him speechless. He stepped outside, the smell of fresh leather and polished chrome in the air, realizing that this was no dream. It was the start of a new chapter in his life. The rain had stopped, but the sky still carried a heavy gray. Arjun sat in his small, dimly lit room, replaying the events of the morning. His shoes were still damp from the muddy road, and the faint scent of the old man's torn shawl lingered on his hands. It was strange. Helping that frail stranger had felt so natural, yet it had turned his life upside down. His phone was dead. He hadn't bothered to charge it after storming out of the restaurant when the manager fired him. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but he had only a few coins left. As the evening approached, a knock on his door startled him. It was his neighbor, a curious woman with sharp eyes. "Arjun, there's a group of men asking about you outside," she whispered. His heart pounded. Had something gone wrong? He stepped outside cautiously and saw 3 men in black suits standing near a sleek black car. One of them handed him a sealed envelope. "Our boss wants to meet you tomorrow morning," the man said firmly before leaving without another word. Arjun stood there, confused. There was no name, just an address, one of the wealthiest parts of the city. He barely slept that night, questions swirling in his mind. Why would someone from such a place want to see him? The memory of the old man's grateful smile flashed in his head. Could it be connected? As dawn broke, he washed his face, wore his cleanest shirt, and set out for the address, not knowing that within the next few hours, his life would take a turn so dramatic, it would feel like stepping into a dream. Ion stood frozen on his doorstep, his eyes darting between the 10 gleaming Rolls Royces parked in front of his small house. Their polished bodies reflected the morning sun like giant mirrors, almost blinding him. The neighbors had already gathered, whispering, pointing, and speculating wildly. Just then, the man from the lead car stepped out, a tall figure in an elegant suit, his face warm but powerful. Ion recognized him instantly. It was the elderly man he had helped the night before, except now he looked nothing like a struggling old man. His beard was neatly trimmed, his clothes were worth more than Ion's entire monthly rent, and the confident smile on his face seemed to radiate authority. "I told you I wouldn't forget," the man said, his voice deep and calm. Ion's mouth opened, but no words came out. The man chuckled and continued, "My name is Yusuf Rahman. I am the owner of one of the largest luxury car companies in the world." Ion's heart skipped a beat. The old man explained how he had been testing people for months, disguising himself as a beggar to see if kindness still existed in the world. "Most ignored me. Some insulted me. But you gave your food without hesitation, even though you had so little." Yusuf's eyes softened. "These cars are not just a gift, they're an opportunity. I want you to work with me, to create something that changes lives." Ion could barely process what was happening. In less than 24 hours, his world had turned upside down. The hum of the engines felt like a drumbeat announcing a new chapter in his life. And deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The next morning, Ali was still trying to process the events of the night before when the sound of roaring engines shattered the quiet street. He rushed to the window and froze. 10 gleaming Rolls Royces were parked right outside his small house. Neighbors gathered in disbelief, whispering and pointing. Ali's heart pounded as an elderly man stepped out of the first car, dressed in an elegant suit, his face familiar. It was the same beggar he had helped days ago. Only now, he wasn't a beggar at all. The man smiled warmly. "Ali, I owe you my life. You treated me with kindness when you thought I had nothing. But the truth is, I'm the owner of one of the largest luxury car companies in the world. I was disguised to see how people treat the less fortunate. And you passed the test." Ali could barely speak as the man continued. "These cars? They're yours. Not to keep all for yourself, but to start something bigger. A car rental business, fully funded. You will never have to worry about money again." Tears blurred Ali's vision. This wasn't just about wealth, it was about purpose, trust, and the power of doing good without expecting anything in return. The crowd cheered, but Ali's thoughts were with his mother, and the dream he had always had to make life better for her. That evening, as he parked the cars neatly, Ali realized his life had changed in ways he could never have imagined. All because, on one rainy night, he had stopped to help a hungry old man. And in that moment, he knew, kindness truly has a way of coming back, sometimes in the most unbelievable ways. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with others who believe in kindness. Subscribe to Human Fables for more real, emotional, and inspiring stories that stay with you forever.